John Patterson from Patterson Farms in Auburn, New York. I'm the sixth generation here on the farm. It's been in my family since 1830. My wife Julia and I operate the farm. We milk about 1,600 cows and crop about 2,500 acres of land with about 30 great people. I think a lot of it is we constantly try to leave the land and the farm in better for the next generation than there's left to us. I think there's something that the last two generations for sure have been focused on, and our ability to look at other revenue streams. It's definitely raising the family. Raising the family here. It's a lifestyle that we chose to be able to raise our children ourselves and here on the farm, and they're taught some work ethic and some skills that some of other children their age probably don't have, which is I hope that will give them a leg up in the future should they decide, no matter what they decide to do. So on the farm we recycle lots of things. We recycle the cow's waste for fertilizer. We utilize some of that for bedding. We utilize the soil microbes that are in the soil to help break down fertilizer that we put out there to grow a crop. There's many different things we recycle. Yeah, so we reuse old tires we use for covering our feed storage. We put down plastic and then we put tires on top of that to help hold that down so it doesn't blow away in the wind. We reuse field stones that we pick out of the fields for driveways, and wood that we have, the trees that go down for heat at times. So there's lots of different things we reuse. So there's many things we do that we have made improvements to try to do better for the land. One is reduced tillage or no-till planting. We do a lot of cover crops. We do a lot of grass waterways to prevent erosion, fields, buffer strips along the edge of fields to prevent soil and nutrients from leaving the fields. Okay, so sure, the reduced tillage is something that we do. So go back to the beginning, farmers, hundreds of years ago, they would use tools to loosen the soil to manage weeds. Crops don't, just like your garden isn't going to grow well if it's got weeds for competition. So what they did is they turned the soil over, and then they would also use mechanical tillage to loosen up the soil to rip the weeds out. What we do is we use herbicide management, weed killer, to kill the weeds, so that allows us to leave the soil in place so that it isn't as likely to run off. And by leaving the soil untouched, it allows for natural permeability of the soil to let water down in. So we use, by not loosening up the soil, it allows the natural permeability of the ground to take water in. When it rains, if the earthworm holes, if we don't disturb those with tillage, then the water will flow through those holes and down and filter much more so than if we were to till the soil. It falls on it, it compacts the soil, and then it's more apt to run off. So looking at herbicide usage, herbicide is a chemical application on a field to keep weeds from growing. So 40 years ago, the generation before me, they would put down a lot of herbicide that would keep the field brown for the whole growing season. What we're doing today is most farmers in the area are putting on lower rates of herbicide, and it will allow us to put a cover crop on. So if the field was brown when you harvest the corn off, the chances are of getting a cover crop established and getting that to grow isn't very good. So what we've done is we've reduced the rate of herbicides, and we have gone to different modes of action that will help kill the weed that's there, but it'll also let the next crop come in and grow. A cover crop is a crop that's grown after your primary crop. So for our farm, corn is a primary crop. We plant corn in the spring around the 1st of May, and then that grows in the field all through May until we harvest it sometime in September. So the cover crop is a crop that we plant after the corn comes off, but before winter. So it greens up and it helps suck up any nutrients that are left in the field that the crop didn't take up, and it will hold those. And then that holds the soil, keeps the soil covered, so it holds the soil in place, but it also acts like a vacuum, sucks up those nutrients and holds them. And then in the spring, we'll go in with a herbicide and kill that crop off in order to let those nutrients slowly release into the soil so the next year's corn crop can take them up. So we use wheat, or we use oats, we use rye. There's lots of different types of products that we use that'll help with that.
Do you work with soil and water at all for your cover crop program? Or?
Yeah, we do. We work with soil and water with our cover crop program. NRCS, we've worked with them, but Cuyahoga County Soil and Water District has helped us find what cover crops work well. And they've also have some programs that help pay for that. It's an expensive proposition to plant a crop and then to just kill it off. So we have, they've helped us with some of those. It's nothing to put $40 an acre into a cover crop, and then to not get any thing back off of that it can seem wasteful. So to convince people to do it, they've helped us implement the first year or two of that so that we can try it, see how it works, and then hopefully we see the benefit of it and continue to do it on our own. So a grass waterway is a spot on a field that is, if we have, so what we do is we have fields that are on a slope, and the water, when it rains on those, the soil will the water moves fast and it'll carry some soil away. So those areas that are really prone to erosion, we won't plant a crop there, we'll leave a grass or a perennial there that stays there year in and year out so that it helps hold the soil. So as you drive around and you see a cornfield and a strip of corn and a strip of hay and a strip of corn, and you see through the corn there's hay, that's usually a grass waterway to help keep the soil from carrying, or the rain from carrying soil away with it. Yeah, a buffer strip is something that we plant along the side of a field ditch or a stream. Usually they're 30 to 35 feet wide. They have a grass on them, and what they do is they help catch any nutrients that are running off the field or any soil that's running off the field and filter that before it hits the stream. I would say we're got to be 5 to 10 miles of buffer strips and grass waterways on our farm, on that 2,400 acres. We don't have as many steep fields as that we have. Yeah. But we're constantly looking at new places to put them in. Okay, yeah, so what no-till farming is the practice of going in and I guess I have to explain what. No-till farming is a practice that we started back in 2004, and what that is where we use a planter to just open the soil up and put the seed in and then close it back up. We don't go in and work the whole field up and try to make a seed bed. What we do is we worry about the seed bed where the seed is and try to leave the rest of the field alone. That's beneficial to the water quality because we're not loosening soil up and disturbing natural permeability of the soil when we just go in with the planter alone. If we go in with tillage, we can disturb a lot of that natural permeability, so the water hits the field and then runs off rather than hitting the field and going in. Now, we can't do that on every acre that we farm. We do it on, some years, we do it on 50% of our corn acres, and we have, in other areas, other years we'll do it on only 10% because it all depends on the growing condition for the year, what we can do and what the soil will let us do. Yes, so by utilizing no-till, we can cut down the passes across the field so it has a better footprint for us, or a carbon footprint, because we're not burning fossil fuels. That's assuming we can get the same yield. We're still learning, and it's ever changing whether or not we can get as good a yields with no-till as we can with conventional tillage. With our natural fertilizer that we use, we try to inject that in under the soil, so we still are going through it and putting the fertilizer in underground, but then we'll come in when it dries out and plant on top of that. But we will struggle at times with putting natural fertilizer on top and not burying it because it has an odor to it. We use technology in many different ways. We anything from a Fitbit on our cows to know how much they're walking and how much they're laying down, to global positioning systems in our tractors to make sure that we're not overlapping too much when we're in the field. So if we've got a 40-foot wide disc and we overlap 5 feet every time, well, that's a lot of extra passes across the field. So if we can make sure that that's 40 feet every time, we don't end up with using as much fuel. It helps save time and money. So some conservation practices we use are like a vegetative treatment area. We use water conservation in the barns. We try to make sure that we are not using excess water. We have meters and we have people on staff that are trained to, if they have a water leak, that we fix it right away. Things along those lines. We try to use variable frequency drive motors to reduce electricity demand so that motors aren't running wide open all the time. Anything we can do to help balance our demand and reduce our usage is what we try to do. I believe the reduced tillage I'm pretty proud of. I think that it's something that wasn't big in the dairy industry 20 years ago in our region, and it's something that I've been researching and pushing for more and more, and I think that more and more farms have adapted it and tried it and using it where they can. I think that's been a great experience for me. So we've implemented a lot of these conservation processes because, one, we want to leave the farm better for the next generation than it was left for us. And not just the farm, but everything, the lakes as well. It's something that we're constantly trying to improve on. I think that the best ones are ones that have an economic return as well to help reduce the cost of doing business, because the cost of business keeps going up, cost of doing business keeps going up, and we need to figure out how to offset that without having a negative impact on the environment. So we think about our community to the point where we send out newsletters every, I'd like to say every year, but we don't always get it done. But we send them out, a couple times. We send out newsletters to their community, and that broadens out every year. Our farm gets bigger, and we move into new communities, and we try to educate the people who live in those communities to what we're doing and give them our phone number so if they have questions they can ask us. We put on our goals for our business, we have neighbor complaints on there, and we track that just like we track the milk production per cow. So it's something that is constantly in our on our dashboard, trying to make sure that we're being good neighbors. We've been here, the family's been here a long time, and we want to make sure that people think well of us while we're here. Manure is viewed as a fertilizer on the farm and a resource. So we have gone from the point where one time we were separating and using it to bed all of our cows and putting it on fields for fertilizer, and we have evolved from spreading every day. Back 40 years ago, every day, 2 loads a day went out of the tie stall barn, and it didn't matter if it was raining or if it was snowing or what. Those 2 loads went out and got spread regardless of what the weather was. We did that up until we were about 600 cows, and we got into where we were putting manure on fields when the ground was wet, and we didn't like doing that. The first year it got to the point where we were putting it in a neighbor's storage and then pulled manure out of there, so we were limiting our impact on chance of it leaving the field. So we've put in storage to store the manure so that we can put it on a growing crop or just before a crop is grown. That has been proven to be some of the worst time for neighbor relations. So we have went into putting in the digester and trying to help manage the odor with the digester portion of the manure system. So I believe that having manure storage is an important part of protecting the environment, because we can pick the days that we want to spread and put the fertilizer on. If we are forced to have to spread every day because we can't store it, then there's going to be days that is not ideal for putting manure or putting fertilizer on. If we can pick the days we want, we can do a good job of getting it on a growing crop where it's going to suck the nutrients up, or we can get it on and get it buried in the ground where it can stay until the crop can utilize it. So it helps us make sure the nutrients are utilized and not running off. You know, these storages are all designed by engineers, and they're constructed under strict guidance from the federal government and the state, and to make sure that we don't that the potential for them to have problems from the storage themselves is relatively minimal. But we want to make sure that when we pull manure out of there, that's back to the farm, and making sure that we are putting it on environmentally friendly way. Yes, so our new storage for us is what we call a satellite storage, which means it's not at the home farm. So all of our manure storage now is at the home farm, but only 60% of our land is in this area. So in order to get these nutrients on our land in a timely manner, we need to be able to store the manure where the crop is, or where the land is. So we picked this spot for this because it doesn't have a lot of neighbors around it, and it has good soils for construction of earthen storage, and it allows us to fertilize many acres from that. And we hope to be able to reduce our truck traffic on the road. So we typically now, in the past, we've been having to haul to when we want to put manure on those acres, we've got 5 semis running. You know, we hope to be able to pump to this storage from home and then pump out of this storage onto those acres and never have to put a truck on the road. That will help with safety, it helps with wear and tear on the roads, and it's going to save us some money. As a CAFO farm, I am regulated in the amount of manure or amount of fertilizer that I'm able to put on a crop based on what the crop need is, and the value of the manure and the soil, what nutrients are already in the soil. So it doesn't matter if we're growing vegetables for human consumption, or if we're growing corn for cow consumption to make milk for human consumption. All those crops that are growing like that need fertilizer of some sort. So by utilizing our manure that we have, we can not need to buy in mined or fertilizers, or fertilizer that's made from fossil fuels. This is a natural fertilizer that people have been using for thousands of years to grow feed or food. So a CAFO is a certified animal feeding operation, or concentrated animal feeding operation. So that means that in New York we have over 300 head of cattle in one location, and anybody who is over 300 head of cattle in one location is considered a CAFO in New York. I think that larger CAFO farms are regulated more on how we manage manure and how we deal with water than our farm was when we were 100 cows. You know, we were able to spread every day or stack manure next to the creek or whatever we wanted to do when we were 100 cows. Nobody paid much attention to what we were doing. But as we become bigger and we've gotten into, there's more regulations for us, so that's been a good thing. Yeah, so our farm does have a CNMP. It's a Concentrated Nutrient Management Plan. That is something that all CAFOs have. And some farms that are smaller, that are not CAFOs have. We actually had one before the CAFO permit went in. It was something that we did because we wanted to make sure that we were balancing our nutrients with our soils and our land base. So what that is it's a record of all of our fields and all of our fields soil sampling. So we sample every field once every 3 years, and we sample the manure and fertilizer that's put on there every year, and we sample the crop that is coming off. So we try to balance what the crop is. The CNMP is what helps us balance the manure, the land, and the crop to make sure that we've always got an even application, so we're not building nutrients or losing nutrients. Now, a CAFO farm is one that has animals, and a one great benefit to a dairy farm is the fact that we have 20 to 50% of our acres in hay at any one time. We talk about buffer strips and cover crops and things that help to cover the soil. Well, on any dairy is got 25 to 50% of their acres in hay that's covered all the time. So that is all land that is not prone to runoff quite the same as something that's got an annual crop growing on it every year. Okay, well that goes, we're constantly trying to do better in lots of areas. So that means we're constantly looking for experts in areas. We work with engineers to design any facilities that we need to, whether it's to house a cow or to house equipment or to store manure. We work with a crop consultant to help us develop our CNMP, managing our crops. We deal with a nutritionist to help make sure that every animal on the farm is eating the proper nutrients. We work with Soil and Water Conservation District of Cayuga County to help make sure that our streams are being maintained properly, and that we're like when we designed our new storage, they helped us design it, helped us get some funding for it, they came out and they watched what was going on to make sure the contractor was doing what was designed, so that I could be running the farm and not babysitting, or not watching him, I guess is the right word. If we notice that we've got an environmental issue on the farm, we reach out to Soil and Water Conservation District in Cayuga County. They've got a great staff of people, and to be able to come out and see what the problem is and come up with technical assistance to help address it. And if it's something that's going to require a best management practice that we need to change, they will help us see if there's funding available to help fund those projects. I'm pretty sure I've only been here 25 years, and I've been working with them every year since then. I've been my whole life farming. I've been working with them, and the generation before me was working with them. So we've worked with Soil and Water Conservation District for the last 25 years and then some. And what we've done is when we see something that needs to be done, we go to them and seek expertise. And we also, I gotta have you ask me again, I lost it. I've been working with Cayuga County Soil and Water Conservation District since I started my farming career. We would work with them on erosion issues we had in fields and help develop strip cropping programs. We've worked with them to put in our manure storage. We started with a manure storage and a manure separation system. We worked with them to help design that and get some funding to help build it. We worked with them on our digester when we built that. We've worked with them on everything from stream bank erosion to tile drainage in fields. They've been a good resource for us. When I contact Soil and Water Conservation District about a project or a concern that we have, and it depends on what the scope of the project is. If we've got, if we're talking about a filter strip along a field, that is a lot smaller project, doesn't require as much engineering or as much capital as a new manure pit or a digester. So a lot of what we do with soil and water and how time frame to implement a BMP depends on how big it can be. If it's a multi-$1,000 project, it's going to take more time. If it's something that we can just change use their expertise to change the way we're doing something, that doesn't take a lot of time or money. So some of the BMPs take a long time to implement and to develop, and they're still important for us to do because they're what's best for the environment. I mean, whether it's a vegetative treatment area for our feed storage system or storing manure in a lagoon or a grass waterway, these things that have been proven in science to work and to be better for the environment, so it makes sense for us to do it. We just need to be able to figure out how to do it in a cost-effective way, because cost of making milk is going up, but what we're getting paid isn't. So we need to make sure that we are doing it in a way that doesn't run us out of business. Yeah. So working with soil and water helps me as a farm, because I'm able to work on managing my business instead of overseeing the project that we're implementing. Like building this manure storage, they were out there with our hired engineer to make sure that things were being installed properly per the design. There's many different areas where they have been able to see things that we can improve on and suggest them and make those happen. Okay, so soil and water has brought things to us like the hydroseeding of our new manure storage. That's something that we would not have done. That's something that they brought to us and are doing as part of the project that will help that seeding establish and grow quicker. They bring things that want to be proven on farms or from the idea stage to help us get it to implementation. That they bring things to us, whether it's interseeding, which is putting cover crop in between corn rows, so it gets growing sooner in the fall after the corn comes off. They bring ideas like that to us and help us implement, get us some funding to help try them to see if it's something that we can make work year in and year out. So I view the role that agriculture plays in the watershed as we're the stewards of the land. We're taking care of the majority of the land, and we've made huge improvements in the last 40, 50 years in how we manage the land to improve water quality, from anywhere from reducing the amount of tillage we do to changing the herbicide to make sure that we have crops that can grow year round. I believe that the community is, in general, our community views agriculture pretty well. I think the public, in the grand scheme of things, has moved farther and farther away from agriculture. I think of both my grandparents were dairy farmers, and I have 20 cousins, and I'm the only one that's in agriculture. You take that back a couple generations, everybody's grandfather was in agriculture because that's what the country was started out doing. So the more and more people move away from it, the less and less they have that connection to agriculture, and I think that there's some trust that's lost now. So that's why we are putting ourselves out there to answer questions for people and to try to educate people to what we are doing. Just because we're bigger doesn't mean we're bad. We're just different than what they remember. Like we get involved in community outreach with the tours here. We do a lot of farm tours. We have my wife is on the school. I don't know if it's the visioning committee, the school outreach committee. We're friends with the people on the school board and talk with them. We'd go involved in like the visioning process for the town of Springport. I was involved with that. We do work with different agriculture groups, Farm Bureau. I'm on the board for Farm Bureau in the Cayuga County. There's lots of different things we do in the community to help be part of the community. The farm has, the last 2 years we've done, Soil and Water Conservation District has a field day at Emerson Park, and we'll go to that and put a booth on where we educate kids about dairy farming, about what we do. They bring schools, districts, or kids from a certain grade from all the schools, and a lot of schools in the county, and I know that it's over 2 days, and we'll spend 4 or 5 hours there each day talking with kids. So we bring students at the conservation field days, bring kids from all over the county from different schools, and we educate them about what we do in agriculture. Now that is just what Julie and I have been doing. There's other people there that are talking about honey, and other people talking about wood management, and there's lots of different people. They're talking about different activities that impact the environment in at those. Anybody that has questions about what's going on a farm, ask the farmer. I think that people are open to questions, and if you don't believe or you're hearing something you're not sure of what's going on, ask. That would be a great way to help solve some of the questions you have. Find a chat group of farmers, or call farmers and ask them what they can, ask them for their opinion and how they manage something. I'm John Patterson from Patterson Farms in Auburn, New York, in Cuyahoga County. My wife Julie and I farm about 1,600 cows and milk about 1,600 cows and farm about 2,500 acres with about 30 great employees. I'm John Patterson from Patterson Farms in Auburn, New York, Cuyahoga County. I'm the sixth generation on the farm. My wife Julie and I manage 1,600 cows and about 2,500 acres of land with about 30 great employees.